on the screen, you see people who didn't have exceptional backgrounds or colleges or anything like that, but just learned the art of selling. Kept on doing it for years and years till they actually headed, all of these are heads of multi-billion companies. So the first step, right, is to, and this is just from my personal journey, is to, we should know who we are. Understanding of ourselves is the most important thing because it's your career. It's something that you're going to do for the next 40, 50 years of your life, right? So the approach to picking up sales cannot be, a matter of chance, right? So just to, on the left, if you see, there's a Venn diagram that talks about build and sell. So in the modern world, we say there are only two kinds of people. There are builders and there are sellers. Right? So there are people who build. So when you say build, we'll say they are product guys, engineers. If there is somebody, who collects stamps or collects, cricket cards, and they say that if you can do both, then you're an entrepreneur. Right? Entrepreneur is somebody who builds and then has the ability to sell as well, which is a very rare trait. Right? The first thing is identify, are you a builder or a seller? Right? And once you decide that, then you know. Second thing you should see is this ranking system I use myself, which basically talks about what is important for me in life. 6 or 7 things I've listed here, and I have called it what matters to me. First is money or wealth. That some people want to make a lot of money in life, right? Because your passion could be owning a Porsche car, building a huge house, traveling first class, right? So you should know that, is money something that drives you, right? How far are you going to, travel to be wealthy, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is work-life balance. See, there are a lot of who have hobbies outside their work, right? Some people like cooking, some people like photography, some people like playing sports. So those people would typically not want to do a 7-day-a-week work or a 6-day-a-week work. They typically want to work hard for 5 days, but don't want any work on the, say, on the last 2 days of the week, or who possibly don't want to do a 11 p.m. Midnight kind of, they don't want to be on calls like that, right? So they're people who value life and understand that work is only a small part of the life, which is we call the work-life balance. The third set of people is who are lucky enough to identify what are they passionate about, right? So, for example, if somebody is passionate about writing, right, and loves writing, which means that he should go into content, he should go into writing blogs, he should go into journalism, but possibly not go into doing sales. Right? Fourth is learning. So there are some people who are very academic oriented. For them, learning on the job is the most important thing. It's more important than meeting sales numbers or how much money the company is paying or the culture of the company. And the last is recognition. There are people who always want to be on stage. They're very flamboyant. They're always, center of the class. They're the ones who respond to a teacher. Whenever a teacher would ask a question, they're the first to answer. Right? They want recognition. They participate in sports, kind of thing. When you're a 25-year-old, you possibly want to learn a lot. Right? When you're a 50-year-old, maybe a 40-year-old, you want much more money in life. When you're a 60-year-old, you need more recognition in life. Right? But I think it's important to keep track of this because it will help you decide what work do you want to pick. Right? And which means that you'll never be frustrated. After you know what kind of a person you are, that you are a seller and who basically likes to maybe learn a lot or make a lot of money, because salespeople have unlimited potential to make money. The more you sell, the more incentives you make, right? The other thing to choose is what kind of a company do you want to work for if you're not starting up, right? For that, the choices are largely this. For example, when I was building my career, I basically said, I want to understand the users most. So I will typically work in FMCG company wherein I directly work with the end user, right? So which is typically a B2C journey. Like if you work for a Flipkart, it's a B2C company, business to consumer. Flipkart selling directly to the end user. Then it could be B2B. For example, if you look at medical products, for example, if somebody has arthritis and you look at a knee replacement product, it is not bought by the consumer itself. It is sold or recommended by a doctor, right? So that is a B2C sales. So Johnson & Johnson will go and sell the products to a hospital and a hospital will eventually give it to the end user, which is a B2C sale. And second is B2B. So you can be a supplier, to another business. So, for example, you could be supplying, grocery to a restaurant, right? Then you are a B2C business. So it's important to know what are you good at. In B2B, you should be exceptionally good at, negotiating, talking to businesses. To a consumer, you need to figure out who is my consumer segment? Why are they buying the product? Why are they not buying the product? What is my competition, right? So it's important to figure out, what kind of business you want to go for. Second thing is culture. See, you would typically, everybody has a different personality. Some people are introvert, some people are extrovert. Some people like aggressive culture, some people like very calm ways of doing things. So it is very important to figure out what is the culture that suits you. Right? So like they say, if you cannot evaluate a fish by its ability to climb a tree, right? A fish is, evaluated by its ability to swim fast. Similarly, you don't look at a human being by the ability to, compete with the tiger. So I think everybody is unique, and it's important to find the right place for you. Other thing to look at is the business local or global. And why is it important? Because there are a lot of cultural nuances, right? Like I come from a Hindi speaking belt, right? If I go to, say, China to work in a company, right, I will not need to know the language. I would need to learn a lot about how do people consume products there. What do they buy? Do they buy on discount, or do they buy on a specific day? Right. So there are a lot of nuances. So working with a local company or working with a global company also depends on your aspiration. Right. Local has a limitation of the market, or global has no limitation of the market. It is cross country. So if you sometimes want to work in a different country, maybe you need to work for a global company. Okay. Then also looking at the stage of the company, early stage, growth stage, and market leader. So for example, if you look at Apple, right? Apple sells iPhone. It is a market leader in its segment. You don't need to sell. People stand in queues to go to the shop. So with the market leader, you know that there is obviously a pull in the market for the product. It is very easy to do sales. But you, the salesperson, will not be as valued, right, in an Apple than an early stage company. Because early stage company will be built on sales, for example. Right? Which means you are more valuable to the company. With a company which is a market leader. So also understanding, what suits you. In an early stage company, the product will not be perfect. But think of a mobile phone that you join a company which has launched a new mobile phone called X. So nobody knows the product. Nobody knows the performance. There is no history. There are not enough people using the product. But if an aggressive sales guy will see that an opportunity. You need to know, you need to do the first sale and then do the 100 sale and then do the 1,000 sale. So you are the one who knows how to drive that product. Right? So I think choice of, stage of company is super critical. Right? Is it a sales driven company or a product driven company? See, if you go to a product driven company, the sales guy, you will not be able to create a right impact because it's a product driven company. If you go to so for example, Baiju is largely a sales driven company. If you go to Baiju, right, you know that salespeople are highly valued there because most of the revenues come from sales. Right, this service you go to a Netflix, right? Netflix, it's the people buy subscriptions on the portal. There is no sales people doing it. So the sales guy, you might not be as valuable in Netflix as compared to a Baiju, for example. Also, if you look in the middle, I've said market tailwinds and what are you good at, right? There's a Venn diagram. So, and it's very, very important to know what sector or what industry to go into, right? And why I say this is, if you were given a choice, right, will you sell Tata Sky subscriptions or will you sell Netflix subscriptions? If you are able to find an industry which is fast growing and you become really good at selling it, then there is nothing that is going to stop you. Right? So this is just a framework to look at what is the kind of company you should choose. A lot of sales, and I'm just talking about the science of selling, not the art of selling. The good salespeople, right, always have calculations in the mind. Look at a very simple example is if you have to sell a book, the first thing you need to know is what is the cost of writing a book, what is the cost of printing a book, what is the cost of selling the book, so that you know that at above what cost is the company going to make money? And it's very important. Second thing to look at is what is the price of the book? At what is the price at which the publisher wants to sell the book? Third thing is value, right? And value is neither cost nor price. Value hota hai what is in the mind of the user. So there is this Amitabh Bachchan movie, I think in 70s or 80s, wherein Amitabh Bachchan goes and buys a building, right, at very high prices, more than double or triple of the price. And after he has done the purchase, the builder comes to him and says that, let me tell you this. You are stupid. You bought this building at a very high price. I would have sold it to you very cheaply. And then he says, you actually sold it to me very cheaply. I would have paid more for this because my mother used to work here, right, as a laborer. Right? This is a part of a movie. Now, value jo hota hai, wo user ke mind mein hota hai. It is not the price. Ugly sketch made by your daughter is more valuable for you, right, than a painting that you purchase in the market because of emotional value. Cost of goods sold. It's largely cost, but doesn't include distribution cost and those kind of things. What is revenue? I'll just go a little faster. Revenue, unit economics. For every book that I sell, right, what is my cost of selling? Okay, and it is super critical. If the cost of selling is lower than the price, then there is profit. If the cost is higher, then for every unit of book that the company sells, it is incurring loss because it will restrict the ability of the company to hire more salespeople or to spend more money on you or to give you more increments or more incentive. Right? Right. Other thing to know is what is LTV, which is the lifetime value of a customer. For example, if you are, if you sell, say, dog food, right? Packed dog food, it is tough to crack a customer. But once you crack a customer, you know that a dog will eat the same food every week. So without even selling, the same customer is buying the same product week on week on, which means that the lifetime value for customer is very high, right? Vis-a-vis, if you sell, say, a sandwich in a local train, you only meet a customer once. There is no brand. So एक ही बार में आपको पैसा बनाना, right? Then cost of CAC, which is cost of customer acquisition. How much money do I spend in acquiring a customer? So suppose you were selling 100 books and your salary was 100 rupees, right? And then 10 rupees was your cost of travel, incentive, blah, blah. Which means that for selling 100 books, you are spending 110 books, which means 110 by 100, which is 1 rupee 10 paise is the cost of acquiring a customer, right? Receivables, you might do a sale, but has the customer eventually paid or not, right? And typically in B2B, people take 3, 4, 6 months to clear. So look at what is churn. What are the customers that you have acquired, but they have never done a repeat purchase? Once they have bought and then they haven't, because it will give you a lot of learnings. So we said, know the maths. In a sales guy understands all the maths in the mind. Also look at the market. So if you are selling mobile phones, you should know everything about the mobile phone, because nowadays the customers are really more informed. See, even things like product brochures, you should go to the website. You should look at, you should meet happy customers. So you should figure out a way to connect with customers on any platform and say, give me feedback about the product. Because a happy customer will tell you what they liked about the product. Then you should look at customers who are really angry or churned. They always tend to give the best feedback. They will say what they didn't like about the product. And some of the learnings of that, you can come back and give the feedback to the organization, and the organization can improve. Right? For example, a simple thing like once, launched aim matchboxes, in the market of Rajasthan. And that time ship used to be the competition, right? And when we started keeping aim matchboxes, we saw that first month, because we were pushing, we got a lot of sales of matchboxes. After subsequent month, we saw that, shopkeepers were not placing orders. And then we realized there's something wrong. Okay? Then we, disguised as customers, went to a lot of cigarette shops and asked for aim matchboxes. And every time we used to take aim matchbox, customers or the shop people come and say, oh, don't use that. Because they would say, oh, the fire falls on your shirt. It breaks and falls on your shirt. See, that kind of a feedback you'll never get sitting in your rooms and offices. Go and, because see, the customers are not totally changed. Earlier it was all offline, now it's online. People go and it's very easy to give online reviews. It's very important that, you know, read all the reviews, and specifically when I go and buy on Amazon any product, I always read the 1-star reviews first, because then I know what is wrong with the product. Customers always have choices. If you are a mobile phone company, if they're not using a mobile phone, they're using somebody else's mobile phone. So you should know, you know, everything about competition. What new products are they launching? What are the schemes running in the market? What are the pricing? You know, what is their service rules? What is the warranty rules? Everything. How are they selling? Are they selling online, offline? Are their prices different? What markets are they strong? You know, are they more North India focused or the South India focused? Are they targeting more teenagers or more old people? Everything needs to, right? So there is sales is a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation. Actually, the sales is not done in meetings. The sales is done much before you go for meetings. Right? Then objection handling. You should always do mock sales and, you know, figure out if a customer is saying no to me, why is he saying no? Is the customer irrational? Is my pitching wrong? Is the language I'm pitching very wrong? Right? Am I talking to the right person? Is it the wrong time to pitch? Right? For example, in a large part of India, they have this month of Shravan, right? Or on the Shravan period. Therein people don't purchase things. If you keep on, even if you give the best discount, people are not going to buy. Right? So if you are planning to sell an AC, right? And if you go and sell it in cold winters in Jammu and Kashmir, nobody's going to buy. Right? So being aware of why is the customer buying, why the customer not buying, very important. Then what we also need to do is each salesperson individual should maintain a diary and write an FAQs, which is frequently asked questions. Every time you go and meet a customer, you see initially your sales will not be great. So every time a customer would ask you a question you don't have an answer to, note it down. So now हर product का और हर एक salesperson का एक sales funnel होता है, which you need to, right? And I'm basically it starts with lead. Okay, so let's look at IT sales. You make a list of 100 companies. In that 100 company, you look at, you know, you identify some 20-30 companies based on your location, their price point, right? Do they use our product already? So on different parameters you can select, and which is what is called the qualified opportunity. 100 is your total market. Usme 30 is qualified, which means they have a potential to buy the product. Out of that 30, and these are just examples, right? Out of that 30, you try reaching out to these 30 people. Out of the 30 people, suppose you have reached out to only 15 people. Kisi ne phone nahi uthaya, somebody never gave you a meeting, right? In the online world, somebody did not come to your website. So then you say, out of 30, 15 people I was able to connect, which is called connections. Out of 15 people that you were able to connect, how many people were you able to pitch your product? Say example, out of 15 people, 10 people heard your pitch. 5 people time nahi, I'm not interested, so they left. So then, which is a pitch, or they did a discussion, and it could be multiple discussions, 1 discussion, 10 discussions. So out of 15 people whom you could connect, 10 people did a discussion. Out of that 10 people, 5 people said, yeah, I like the product, I'll pay after a week, which means they are promising to pay. Okay. Out of that 5 people who said promise to pay, eventually after 1 week, only 2 people ended up paying. Right? So what numbers did I say? 100, then 30, then 15, then 10, then 5, then 2. So this is the entire sales funnel. So if somebody would ask you what is a conversion, your conversion is, say, your question should be, are you asking me lead to conversion or qualified lead to conversion? If it's lead to conversion, you will say 2%, right? 2 out of 100 is what I was able to sell. Okay. What is a qualified? Then 2 out of 30, right? Yani, which is about 7-8%, right? This is what my pitch is. Now, every product, every month, you should create this funnel and see क्यों important है. हमको ये पता लगना चाहिए कि कहां पर प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। ये फनल हमको डायग्नोस करता है, कि बताता है कि where exactly the problem lies. Okay, and I'll just try to cover it. Suppose your connections to lead ratios is low, right? Which means that 30 people you are identified as potential, your ratio is 50%, 15/30. In the modern world, you can do anything. You can target them on digital media, social media. You can send them letters. You can go to their house. You can go to their office. You know that you need to move your 15 connections to 20 connections, right? So maybe you're not able to connect or change the pitch. Second thing to look at is that out of 15 people who agreed to talk to you, only 10 people heard your pitch, which basically meant was that either you got them at the wrong time, they were rushing to office, or they were going on a holiday, or your way of pitching wasn't right. So you're pitching on Zoom, but your internet quality is not good, or you are pitching to a rural person, you're talking in English, right? So you need to know whether this ratio is right or not. Now, out of people who heard your pitches and people said, "हाँ हम पैसे भर देंगे," if you're seeing that only 5% people after listening to your pitch are agreeing to pay, which means there is something wrong either in the product or in the pitch, right, or in the pricing or your competition. So you need to then ask those people who didn't agree to pay कि आपने हमारा product क्यों नहीं लिया? Why do you give me one honest reason why you don't want the product? And that is, you should go and tell the company that this is why people are not buying. And the last is when people agree to make the payment. Right? Normally 80-90% of people who said, I will pay, end up paying. If the number is very low, which means either the customers are lying to get rid of you, or your payment gateway is not right, or somebody offered them a better price, which means that why give a customer 1 week to make the payment? If the customer is convinced, you should tell him, oh, why didn't you make the payment now? And he will say, okay, I don't have money to pay right now. So, oh, okay, why didn't you take a loan? I have tied up with X finance company. But somebody says, no, I want to make the payment online. You say, okay, this is the link to make payment online. Somebody says, I need to pay in a wallet. You say, okay, use the Paytm wallet to pay. If somebody says, no, I don't have any credit card, debit card, I only have cash. You say, okay, I'll send somebody to collect the cash. Right? So looking at the funnel is going to tell you where the problem lies. Okay? If you are only getting, say, 10 qualified leads, right? No matter how hard you try, you'll only end up doing 2-3 sales. But if you're getting 100 qualified leads, which means that there are more chances that you will be able to meet your target if you get more leads or better quality leads and you're a good pitcher. Yeah. This is till now we just talked about the whole science of sales, right? Identifying, I'll just recap, what are you a salesperson? What is important for you? What's a good company to work for? What is a sales funnel? And the entire maths of sales, what you should know. I'm just moving to the art of selling, right? See, in life and in specifically in sales, if you look at the top straight line, which is goal set to goal achieved, life and sales is not like that. It is not going to be very easy wherein you say, I have the product, you knock at somebody's door, or you give a call and say, hey, I have this product, and customer says, great, here is the money. It is not simple. The real journey of a salesperson is what is shown below, right? It is like ups and downs. One day you'll have a great day, next you'll have a really bad day. 1 month you'll achieve your target, next month you'll not achieve it. But the most important for a salesperson is persuasion, right? One is never leave a customer. Even if he's not buying this month, try next month. He's not buying next month, try next month. Always be in touch with the customer, persuade him. Follow up. Follow up is such an important thing. If there's some data which says that 70% of sales is closed in between 5 to 8 meetings, and most of the sales guys give up in the 4th meeting, right? They'll try once, second time, third time, then they say, oh, customer is not buying, we'll leave it. But globally, most sales are converted after the 5th meeting, right? So first thing is, the real sales journey life cycle is set your goal, keep on meeting the customer. You will see failure, you only 10% target achievement, you keep on trying, then you will suddenly see that, oh, more and more customers are getting convinced. And the customer says, oh, come call tomorrow, I'll buy the product. And then he stops picking up your phone, but you still follow or do something else next month. And then you eventually, you will always be victorious, right? So always keep that in mind, never lose patience. Each day is a new day, each month is a new month, right? This is also underrated. Like this is example I gave on the rural IT thing. You should always know so much about the customer, so that you can keep on changing your strategy. For example, when I was in sales, used to write a one page on the customer. And it used to be like this. My customer's name is Palak, right? She's 25 years old. She's a homemaker. She gets up at 6 in the morning, goes for a walk, reads a Hindi newspaper at 8, right? Then goes to work at 10 in a cab. In the cab, she reads Economic Times. She meets so many people. On weekends, she hangs out with people. She watches this particular serial. Then she goes to a movie or on the weekend. Everything about the customer. Now, what I know is that now I can identify what are the customer touch points. If the customer goes for a walk in the park, which means as a company, I can put hoardings in the park, or I can stand at the gate of the park. If the customer reads newspaper, I can give a newspaper. If a customer goes driving in a car and listens to radio, you can put radio jingles. If a customer goes on parties, should I do deals and offers in the party, in pubs and restaurants? So understanding the customer life cycle is very important. So even if it's about selling IT products in rural, you need to know the life cycle. When do farmers have money? Which means after they have sold the crops. If you go very late and meet them, they'll not be able to buy because they don't have money, right? So identifying who are the customer friends, who is the decision maker, and is the person I'm talking to the decision maker, or he's just a very junior guy who's collecting information? Who is the influencer? So like somebody who's a 15-year-old teenager, they find their joy on Instagram. So you need to connect with them on Instagram, which is figuring out who are the influencers, what celebrities they follow, what books they read. Yeah. So all of this, and you should go whole hog. Okay. When you have to convert a sale, you need to cover the customer from all sides. The kind of people he meets, meet customers, send them training material, send them information, call them to office, anything is required. So the area of influence of the customer is extremely important. And this is also an art. If the customer agrees to go out on a coffee with you, or comes to a conference that you organize, which means he's convinced, right? And always remember, a customer buys a salesperson before he buys the product. So first you have to sell yourself. Why are you the right person to sell that product? Yeah. So when you do all of that, right, you will have your own playbook. Right? My playbook is, I'm a seller who likes to work in a B2C company and in an MNC, because I think I need more exposure and it's a much bigger market. And at some point in time, I want to go abroad and do it. Right? The way to, and I like B2C product, which means I need to understand digital products. I need to understand social media, which means I connect with people on LinkedIn or Facebook. I send them invites. I do Zoom calls with them. So everybody, each player in a football team has his own strategy. So as a salesperson, you should also have a playbook. So which is maintain a diary, write all the numbers, everything, your experiences every day. That is going to help you make a good playbook for yourself. And once you have that playbook, once you know that this is my style, this is my strategy, you are never going to fail in life because you know yourself so well. Right? And like I say, being a salesman is like running a marathon and also running 100 meters. If somebody was saying, is it stressful? Every month you have to meet your numbers, but also you have to survive like a salesman for the next 40 years. Right? So it's the right balance. You should know when to run fast, when to run slow. Right? How to create funnels. Every day you don't need to start from zero. If you have a sales prospect from last month, people have not bought, and they spill over to the next month, it's much easier. So you should never irritate a customer. He should not think that the salesperson is following too much. And see, it depends. In the new age world, people don't like to get calls, right? They want the empowerment to choose the product themselves. So they will basically go and read reviews on their own instead of calling somebody up like in old age that tell me about the product, right? Kind of a thing. So I think the right answer is you should gauge, in every call or meeting that you have with the customer, that is he getting more convinced or less convinced? If he's getting more convinced, which means that you have to meet him more frequently, right? So that he doesn't get distracted, right? And if you think that with every meeting he's going farther away, then I think I would say give it some cooling period. Don't talk to the customer for a week, 10 days, 15 days, so that he settles down, and then start fresh with a new pitch. Yeah. See, every product and company that you work in, you will see that on average, X meetings and X follows may conversions happen. One is there are two sets of people in a conversion funnel. People who end up buying the product, and then people who don't end up buying the product. So people who end up buying the product are your ambassadors who know something worked for them. So those people, you should always ask for referrals, saying that, because he will call up a friend and say, I bought this product. And there is no better sales pitch than saying, I am doing it, right? Why don't you do it as well? Right? So always ask for, if you ask for 5 references, nobody's going to give it to you. You need to ask for just 1 reference, maybe max 2. Second thing is, if you look at people who haven't bought, see, all the people who haven't bought a product are not same. They're also in a spectrum. Some people basically hate you or hate the product. Those people, you should just say thank you and move out, or maybe take a feedback. Then there are people who are half convinced, who possibly didn't like the price. So you still want to be involved with them. For those people, ask them for references, saying that I know that you don't want to buy because it's expensive. Can you give me suggestions on how should I improve my pitch, or anybody in network who should be willing to buy? So those people are wanting to help because they're 50% convinced. The most important part of closure to me is doing it now. If you don't close it today, it is not going to close tomorrow. So everything sales closure is in the heat of the moment. That when the customer is convinced, that is a time you have to make, you have to ensure that he makes the payment. If somebody comes and says, I'll do the payment tomorrow, 50% of sales is not going to happen. Right? So sales is all about timing. It depends on what product are you selling or what market are you targeting. But largely, I would say the most important thing is listening to the customer. The first question you should ask is, why should a potential customer listen to you? He doesn't know me well, possibly. He's possibly more educated. He has exposure to more salespeople. We don't know what the user ate in the morning. Did he fight with his wife in the morning in terms of what mood he is in? Is he really interested in buying the product or just fishing? So the more information you have about the end customer, right, the more likely that you will convert the sale. So I would say listening for sure, 100%. And after you have spoken, you should mold your pitch according to what the customer said. For example, if you're talking to a customer who wants to buy a car, right, the first thing to do is understand the profile of the customer. Okay, where does he stay in the city? You have some idea of whether how his salary income is. What language is he communicating in? To build some persona on the mind of the customer, then asking questions on, okay, what are you looking for in a car? Some people look at mileage, some people look at, so if somebody has come with a large family, he's possibly not looking at a sports car, right? But sports car can only sit 2 people. If somebody is coming with 6-7 people to buy a car, you have some idea that they're a joint family, or they maybe want a larger car. if somebody, so I think you need to get a lot of sense, listen first, hone your pitches, and then, speak to the customer and try converting it. So if the product is being pitched to 100 people, how many people are ended up buying that product? I'll give you a very simple crude example. Suppose you are selling biscuits. Okay. So what you need to do is put some biscuit packets on the counter of a shop and just sit and observe. First number, you should say sit for 1 day and see how many people came and saw your biscuit packet or touched it. Out of that, how many people, ended up buying the product? So you make a count. So suppose 50 people came and saw the, look at the packaging, look at the price, and 10 people ended up buying, which means 10 by 50, which is your conversion is 20%. Right? You should do the same thing for competition product and see what is the conversion. So you will get a sense of, is my conversion better than competition conversion or not? And then you should also look at conversion over a period of time. You should track conversion month on month. Maybe their conversion is high on weekends, right, than on weekdays. Correct? So that's one way to look at it. So it is always, the answer is in trend. And then you should look at trends, week on week trend and month on month trends on conversion. If your conversion numbers are falling, which means that more new, old customers are not coming back, so there is no repeat happening, then you should find out why that has happened. Is the product quality bad, or has competition done something, or is it even the right kind of user in the shop? Should I not sell my product in a cheap shop, or should I not sell my product in a very expensive shop? So it's the most important thing to do the maths, is to look at how many people are buying upon how many people are exposed to the product.